So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon and welcome to the NDC Pavilion for this afternoon's discussion. We're going to be looking at how we strengthen long-term strategies. So thinking about how we have more robust climate commitments aligned with development goals. And it's my pleasure today to be moderating this event. I'm Melanie Robinson, and I'm the Global Director for Climate, Economics and Finance at the World Resources Institute. And it gives me great pleasure to ask our first guest to come and give opening remarks. He's Mr. Priyanto Ramatula, and he's the Director of Environment Affairs at Bappenas, Indonesia, the Ministry for Planning. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mel. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So I would like to read the Vice Minister remark. Actually, just left to Jakarta due to another assignment. So, distinguished speaker, esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, as we gather here today at the show COP29, we are reminded of the urgent need to robust and synchronized climate commitments. Recent data from the World Meteorological Organization reveals that the decades from 2014 to 2023 was the warmest on record, with the global temperature averaging 1.2 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels. Alarmingly, the IPCC projection now indicates a significant risk that we may surpass the critical 1.5 degrees Celsius limit by the nearly 2030s. As we approach the critical Paris Agreement threshold, our collective responsibility has never been more pressing. While we acknowledge progress in clean technology adoption, the pace of emission reduction demands immediate acceleration. This COP29 serves as a pivotal platform for deepening our collective resolve, particularly in several key issues. This encompasses establishing a new collective qualified goals, or NCQG, on climate finance that respond to developing countries' needs, seizing momentum for committing to stronger NDCs, responding to loss and damage fund, and progressing on Article 6 about the cooperative implementation on international carbon markets. Ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia stands ready to contribute this global climate endeavor while ensuring our development goals remain within reach. Our unique geography makes us particularly vulnerable to climate impacts, yet we remain firm in our commitment to balancing environmental responsibility with economic progress. This dual challenge compels us to advance our climate commitments, and Indonesia remains fully committed to strengthen our NDC and submitting the update to UNFCCC with a clear vision of achieving net zero emission by 2060 or sooner. I'm proud to highlight that our government has consistently demonstrated this commitment through ongoing updates to our NDCs. Indonesia's second NDC to be implemented from 2031 to 2035 is strategically aligned with our long-term national development plan, or the RPGPN 2025 until 2045. By aligning our climate targets, policies, and strategies within the national development vision, we are embedding sustainability as a core element of Indonesia's future. Key adjustments in the second NDC include: one, expanding the scope of greenhouse gases calculation by incorporating hydrofluorocarbon into our greenhouse gases inventory to ensure a comprehensive approach to emission reduction. The second one enhance transparency framework through the National Regulatory System, or SRN, and improve measurement, reporting, and verification processes. The third one is detailing the just transition scenario by including result-based payment, or RBP, to REDD plus initiative and the introduction of the carbon pricing mechanism. And the fourth is strengthening climate adaptation commitment with a stronger adaptation measures, including early warning system and enhanced reporting to protect our communities from climate-related impacts. And the last one is including new sectors, marine and upstream oil and gas sector, recognizing their critical roles in our national climate strategy. The long-term National Development Plan 2025 to 2045 sets forth an ambitious vision that unites emission reduction, economic growth, and poverty alleviation as inseparable priorities. By 2045, we aim to reduce our emission intensity by 93.5%, underscoring climate action as a central pillar of the national development. Beginning in 2025, next year, we are advancing this emission reduction target to all subnational levels, fostering a unified approach to climate action across our provinces and local government. So this is very important for us, since we have 34 provinces, yeah, and more than 500 cities or regency. This collaboration framework embodies Indonesia's dedication to a sustainable future, inviting provincial and local stakeholders to join us in this mission. So, Indonesia faced significant challenges in implementing our climate commitments, primarily concerning financial resources and technological capacity. Like many developing nations, we encounter barriers to funding large-scale climate initiative and assessing advanced green technologies. Achieving net zero emission by 2060 requires an annual investment of more than 794 trillion rupiah per year, with a remaining gap of more than 500 trillion rupiah. Despite allocating 2% of public and private measurement to green initiative, innovative financing and green investment can close most of this gap while promoting a just transition, reducing disaster risk, and improving our air quality, public health, and biodiversity. We call upon the international community to enhance support through accessible climate finance, technology transfer mechanism, and capacity building program. Through collective action and knowledge sharing, we can bridge this gap and achieve our climate goals while maintaining our development trajectory. For the conclusion, through this discussion, we expect that an exchange of good practices and lessons learned on applying effective long-term climate strategies. We are honored to welcome our distinguished speakers who will share their insight on critical issues, including innovative climate finance mechanism, the role of international support, and the emerging opportunities in blue carbon initiative. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Director, for giving us that excellent overview. And so now I'm going to invite our panel to come and join me. So we have Lakshmi Dewanti. Yes, please come and join us. She is the Deputy for Climate Change and Carbon Pricing Governance at the Ministry for Environmental Control Agency, Indonesia. You're very welcome. We have Dr. Hendra Yusran Siri, Senior Advisor to the Minister on Ecology and Marine Resource Affairs, Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries, and Mr. Stefania Adila, the Deputy Director for Country Engagement at the NDC Partnership. So thank you for joining us today. And I'm going to take you through a few questions. I'll give you each a question, then come back around for a second question if that's okay. And I'd like to start with Ms. Lakshmi Dewanti. So we've just heard from the Director about Indonesia's commitment to reaching your climate goals whilst meeting your development trajectory. So I wonder if you can tell us more about how you do this in Indonesia, because you were famous quite early on for putting your climate goals into your development planning. Do you do it that you take your climate goals and you integrate them into your development planning and your economic planning in order to make an integrated approach? Or do you take the SDGs and try to put them into the NDC, or both? And I'm asking this because I think lots of countries are grappling with the question, which way around do you do it? And also, as we see the new government coming in Indonesia with a commitment for 8% growth a year, how do you then approach the question, how can we achieve 8% growth per year while still doing that in a way which is positive for people, nature, and climate? Share with us how you do it.
Yeah, thank you. As part of its commitment to the sustainable development, Indonesia, well, I would like to put it like this. Indonesia's agenda on climate change, especially, it's not because we are following the global agenda only, but it is the constitution mandate. In our constitutions, it is a must for the government to ensure the healthy environment to its people. So basically, our commitment to the sustainable development is not only started when we ratified the UNFCCC or other convention. It started just the beginning of we are establishing our country. Yeah, when talking about the climate change, indeed we ratified the UNFCCC since the beginning. Although Indonesia is not part of the Annex 1, but if you may aware that back in 2009, Indonesia has put its voluntary commitment to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. Although at that time, Indonesia, it's not mandatory to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. So back it is the constitutional mandate that we are following. So after we ratify the Paris Agreement, of course, the game is changing. We have to well, it is mandated for Indonesia to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. And the first round of our NDC, we updated our first NDC twice. We submitted our first NDC back in 2016 when we ratified the Paris Agreement. We updated our NDC in 2021, and we enhanced our NDC back in 2022. So we are strengthening our commitment from time to time. And Indonesia is strengthening its climate policy to achieve the net zero emissions by 2060 or sooner, with the commitment to align climate action with national development goals for economic growth and resilience. The key development in this framework is issued of the Presidential Regulation number 98 year 2021, and following these regulations, we have the Ministerial Regulation, which provide a comprehensive guidelines for Indonesia to implement its nationally determined contributions, as well as to acknowledge the important role of carbon pricing in this context. So in these regulations, the objective and scope, we decide to have the multi-sectoral approach. although within our NDC we focus in 5 sectors, but basically we encourage all sectors to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. We also are establishing the transparent measurement reporting and verifications procedures. That's very critical for evaluating the performance and accountability, because we cannot achieve what we cannot measure. So it's very important to have the MRV. We also empowering our regional government to contribute toward the NDC target, especially through specific contribution in their emissions reduction and adaptations measure. I don't know. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you're asking about the 8% economic growth. As I think clearly mentioned in the presidential message delivered by His Excellency Special Envoy of the Indonesian presidents, Indonesia will able to achieve the 8% economic growth with still maintaining the sustainability of its environment. Climate change agenda is only one of the environmental agenda in our development plan. We also have another agenda. I believe Director Prianto has mentioned quite very comprehensive information. We have the actions on energy, on forestry, and especially for forestry, we introduced our follow net sink 2030. So we will reach the net sink for follow sector by 2030. We expect that the emission from the follow sector by 2030 will be minus 140 million tons CO2 equivalent. By having the forestry sector minus 140 million tons CO2 equivalent, it will allow other sectors to still emit, because we still need to develop our energy sector, our industry, to fulfill the energy consumptions per capita in Indonesia, as well as to alleviate the poverty of the people of the country. So we try our best to balance the agenda of the climate change and other environmental and sustainability agenda with the with implementing the lowest or the low carbon economic activities. So that's one of the strategy.
Thank you very much. And so if I can just, one follow-up question there. How do you do this in practice? So in across the ministries, how does your ministry, working on environment, work with Bappenas, for example, work with the finance ministry to make sure that what you're trying to achieve on the environment is integrated into the development planning? Do you do the modeling that allows you to look at your options and choices for development and for growth with different carbon budgets, or how do you do this? How do you do the integration?
Yeah, I would like to say that coordination is important. Although we all know coordination is a very expensive commodity nowadays, but it is important to have that kind of coordinations together with Ministry of Finance, for example. Well, again, I need to bring the presidential regulation number 98 2021. So because it is the presidential regulation, it's not only the regulation of the Ministry of Environment and Forestry at that time. So it is a regulation for all sectors in Indonesia, including Ministry of Finance, Bappenas, the marine and fisheries, including the environment and forestry. So by this presidential, we have the corridors to talk each other and to bring everybody. In fact, we established so-called Friends of NDCs. This Friends of NDC is the informal setting up. So we meet periodically, the first rank echelon, just to break through the if there is a bottleneck in communications or in coordinations. But the most important things that we need to share the robust data, because having a common understanding on a data is very important. Nowadays, we can have data from various sources, but it is important to have understanding and to use the same data source. So that's what we are doing. In terms of the NDC, for example, in the preparing our second NDC, we are using modeling. The modeling is different from one sector to another sectors. It's really depend on the data and the baselining data and the methodology that we are having. But we are doing the things together, and we will let, as the national focal point of the UNFCCC, of course, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, it's not working alone. We will let the respective line ministries to deal with their data and their exercises. So we trust them with their data and their exercises, and we simply put it into our modeling in building up our NDCs. So that's how we cope with that situation.
Thank you very much. So I understand that the ministries deal with their data and model how they stay within the emission reduction aims, and you pull it together. And then also Bappenas is also doing the same with the development planning. Okay, thank you very much. That's helpful. So let me now turn to Dr. Hendra Yusran Sidi, and I want to talk here about blue carbon and the blue economy, given your ministry's interests. So can you tell us all about what are Indonesia's strategies to increase blue carbon and blue economy potential? What are your key priorities?
Thank you. Thank you. I think first, we in the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries think that blue carbon can be a climate solution. This is also already reflected into our second NDC. If you see that, maybe we can say that Indonesia is the first country, maybe the first country that acknowledge and also put it and to be reflected into the text of NDC. And we right now in the ministry, we have also in Bappenas, we have the blue economy approach for Indonesia. Because blue economy, we're talking blue economy is like holistic sectors, but narrow down into the marine affairs and fisheries, there are 5 strategies we apply that. First, what we call is to enlarge our marine protected areas and to become like 30% by 2045. We think, and then this is the argument doing this, we need the conservation area to make sure that we have still a breeding, also nursery ground for fisheries, and then can sustain the fisheries resources itself. And it also can put it like the carbon sinks, because when we have the marine protected areas, there are many mangrove and also seagrass that can be put it into, it can be protected, and also can have a carbon sink. The second policy, the global economic policy that we have right now is sustainable quota-based fisheries management. So we are moving from input control into the input control to the output control. Previously, we just control the numbers of fishing vessels or fishing gears, fishing vessels. Now we control the numbers of fish that catch from the seas. And then we also put it like try to balance the environment and the development. The resources, the area the resources came from should get more benefit in terms of economic value. So you have to land it, your fisheries catch into the area that you catch. So something like that. The second point is the sustainable development of marine and coastal and land aquacultures, because we think we cannot rely on much on the capture fisheries. We need to enhance our effort into the aquacultures. So we choose the 5 commodities that will be a key player for Indonesia in the global market, from shrimp and tilapia and also another type of fish. The thing is, we try to reduce the pressures on the capture fisheries, but in same way, we try to fulfill our protein needs by having sustainable aquacultures. The fourth policy is monitoring and control coastal area and small island. This is how we Indonesia try to manage our coastal and small island in sustainable ways. And doing this, we have to conserve and we have to strengthen our marine spatial planning. At the same time, we also to apply and impose our surveillance right now. And the last one is because we believe that healthy ocean, clean and free from marine plastic, that will be one of the essential for for current and next generation. So that's why we have the reducing the marine plastic and ocean cleanup. The idea is like how to engage the fishermen to reduce and also from the activities, fishing activities, there is no more garbage and so on. So this blue economy principle or blue economy policy in the Ministry of Marine Affairs is like, it can be like complement to each other. So, and for the blue carbon, right now we focus on what we call this a seagrass ecosystem. This is one of the ecosystem that get less attention globally, but they have potential carbon stock and they can be solution for the climate. So we have around 3 million hectares. I hope I'm correct. We don't have any exact numbers now because we don't have any exact map. So that's why we are right now inventory process. But we predict this around 3 million hectares seagrass in Indonesia that can be potential for the blue carbon ecosystem. And of course, there are many steps that we have to fulfill because we have to establish our baseline based on inventory, and also to set up what we call this MRV system. And if we will go to the market or non-market mechanism, of course, we need to make sure that enabler condition will be there. I think it's like that. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I picked a few things there, including you're shifting to an output-based approach. You're considering economic benefits and the importance of baselines, monitoring, verification, and getting the right policies in place. So thank you very much for that. So now I'm going to turn to Estefania. So tell us a bit about the NDC partnership. What do you do to support countries, including through mobilizing finance and technical support, to help them achieve their climate goals whilst also achieving the SDGs? Give us a bit of an insight on that.
Thank you so much, and welcome to your pavilion as well. Very happy to see all of you here. So, in a nutshell, the NDC partnership originated shortly after the Paris Agreement came to be, and out of the need of making efficient use of the resources that are available in the system to make the Paris Agreement a reality and to achieve its goals. No? So there was, I think, a generalized concern about the scarcity of funding, the need for additional funding, and also the need for coordination and the need for efficient approaches to identifying priorities and allocating them to the sectors and the things that are more impactful in terms of achieving the ultimate goal of the Paris Agreement. So NDC Partnership is a coalition. No, it's not an implementing partner, it's a coalition, bring us all together of countries, developing, and institutional members. So we have 100 plus countries, 100 plus institutions that are working together towards that shared goal and ambition of achieving the goals of the Paris Agreement. So in essence, the model is, at the center of the model is country-driven request for support, country-driven agenda of what the priorities are and where the gaps for support are. And what we do at the NDC Partnership Support Unit, which I'm part of, is to have that conversation with the countries and identify how partners, the funders, the donors, and the implementing institutions, WRI is actually one of them, can respond to those requests for support and to those needs. So this is how we work. And there's a whole range of activities and priorities that countries can put on the table for the NDC partnership to come and provide the resources to realize them. I just want to touch on briefly, specifically on the window that we have open right now to support ambition raising, which is only a part of what the NDC partnership does. Back in 2022, and coming out of the Glasgow Climate Pact, we launched the Global Call on NDCs 3.0 and LTS, which is an opportunity that allows countries to come to the partnership and request support at any point in time for, number one, raising ambition of their NDCs, with a view to submission by 2025 or updates of their current targets, which is also something that was clearly mandated in the decisions under the Paris Agreement. And number two, for the development or refinement of long-term low emissions development strategies, or LTS. Since then, we've had countries coming to us, I would say, in large numbers. We have 67 countries with requests for support in place through the global call. 60 of them are currently focusing on NDC 3.0 preparation. And from that group, there's 30 countries that are actually working as well on developing long-term strategies, long-term visions, making those evolve into long-term strategies, and also refining some of the elements of the long-term strategies that were previously developed. So there's a little bit of everything in that bucket. We're hopeful that by having countries work in, let's say, in tandem or in parallel, and developing and establishing that longer-term vision, that will help inform the stepping stones that NDCs represent, minding the importance and the critical nature of the NDC 3.0, as they're called, the window for ambition raising, or even the last window that we have to ensure that collective action is sufficient to keep the goals of the Paris Agreement on site. So this is it in a nutshell, let's say, in general terms.
Thank you very much. And thanks for having us in the pavilion, our pavilion. So I'm going to come back to you, Dr. Hendra Yusran Seri. What are the crucial challenges and support needed to increase your ambitions on blue carbon?
Thank you. I think we have what we call a blue carbon roadmap. So as I mentioned before, we are in the stage like inventory. So of course we need more assistance. One of our, we work together with one of the think tank, what we call this Global Growth Institute, and others, the NGOs, and also with the supervision and also facilitation by our colleague from the Ministry of Environment. Because we need to, moving forward from inventory is to become like, it can be, the seagrass can be one of the blue carbon ecosystem. So we can have a proof, data and information. The seagrass right now can be one of the solution for the climate change adaptation, mitigation, or can be climate-based action. So we need, we need more partnership with the colleagues, or like from university, from think tanks, or from the other NGOs, and of course from the bilateral government. For example, we need to do this. This morning we have a session for the blue carbon together with Canada and also with Seychelles. So I think the lesson learned, the cross knowledge among the countries, and also support kind of like the technical assistance, maybe like the NDC partnership as well. We also need to how to ensure that probably the NDC 3.0 will add knowledge and also reflect the ocean as a sector for the climate change. So I think that's one of my quick response for your answer.
Thank you very much. I'm going to come back to you, Stefania. You talked about cooperation between countries, and I guess it's one of the benefits of the NDC partnership is, yes, you're able to provide support country by country, based on country demand. And so do you have any strategies for helping countries learn from each other on how they bring their climate objectives together with their SDG objectives, and to take some of the learning from countries like Indonesia and share that with others?
Yes. So one of the services that the NDC partnership provides is knowledge dissemination and learning. One of the strategies that I think was quite successful that we implemented this year was a series of peer convenings, peer-to-peer convenings globally. We did that in a way in the absence of climate weeks, and sensing that there was a lot of need for sharing experiences on how to go about ambitious NDC 3.0. So in close collaboration with UNDP, UNEP, we hosted NDC 3.0 fora. They took place from June onward until very shortly. I think the last one was in October in Africa. And we really brought together practitioners, the people who are in charge of coordinating the preparation of the NDCs, but also in some instances the stakeholders that are rather tasked with the responsibility of making it implementable. No? So we had representatives also from ministries of finance participating there. So that was certainly one opportunity that proved extremely valuable, that countries saw very helpful in getting the knowledge on how to do methodological approaches for filling gaps for. And there's more. So one additional example, for instance, is the collaboration that we have with the Coalition of Finance Ministers for Climate Action. That is somehow a tougher crowd, no? And specifically under the article, I think it's Article 13. I might be a bit confused with all the articles pertaining to the convention and other processes. But there is a specific principle around NDCs and how ministries of finance have a role there. We've been present throughout, especially the last 18 months, I would say, in many of their convenings, raising awareness about the opportunity that the NDC partnership presents for them as part of the government to come and request support from the partnership at any point in time to really figure out what NDCs mean for them, and even back to the most basic elements of capacity development and ensuring that there is somebody who has this information in the heads and that helps sort of spreading the word internally within the ministries on the tasks at hand with NDC ambition raising, so NDC development, but also with the implementation and the financing of NDCs themselves. Finally, or as part of what can be done to get there, we've implemented for a few years now, this is kind of outside the ambition raising program, a model of embedded advisory support. No, so providing countries with expertise, specialists who work with them for 1-2 years, sometimes even more, that are really speaking to the ear of people in the ministries of finance, ministries of planning, but it's all request-based. So we get there when countries come to us and say, I really want to invest on this, I want to learn more, I need to be part of this, so please support me. And I think by now we have over 30 finance advisors working in multiple countries across the world.
Thank you very much. That finance and economy crowd is my crowd. I don't think we're so tough. Great, but that's great to hear the work that's going on. So I'm going to finish with you, please, Ms. Lakshmi. And we're talking here now about finance. So can you tell me what other challenges you found with accessing climate finance and using carbon pricing to support Indonesia's net zero goals? And how are you managing to use carbon pricing and finance effectively to support you?
Okay, thank you. Well, in fact, carbon pricing is one of the strategies. So let me start with telling you the strategic in financing the environmental as well as the climate agenda in Indonesia. We have 4 strategies. The first strategy is to ensure that our national budget, it's we call it greening the government budget. So we need to ensure that the budget from the government will direct it to the specific or will support the climate agenda. So we have the budget tagging, both for mitigations and adaptations, starting some years ago. So we know that which budget will goes to mitigations or support the adaptations. And the second strategy is to make the investment in Indonesia more attractive to the green investors, meaning that we need to have all the project in Indonesia consists or at least consists of the green issues that will be more attractive to the green investors. The third is to develop various innovative finance instruments. I believe Indonesia is among a very limited country who develop quite numbers of innovative financing for environment, including the climate. We have blended finance, of course. We have a green bond. We have Islamic bond or sukuk. And even we have a samurai bond for the blue carbon for the ocean sectors. So we develop quite numbers of innovative instruments, not mentioning the payment for ecological services, that kind of things. Because we do have a specific government regulations on environmental economic instrument. So we have the very basic regulation to develop various environmental economics to deal with the, to address the financial gap in our. And the fourth is to broaden access to the global sources. The Green Climate Fund, Adaptation Fund, Global Environmental Facilities. Carbon pricing is one of the innovative instruments that we are also developing. Climate finance and carbon pricing are central to Indonesia's net zero target, offering both opportunities and challenges. Specific sector roadmaps, so with roadmaps developed by or for its sectors, Indonesia is setting clear pathway for emission reductions. These roadmaps, which also describe a clear milestone and activities, as well as the need of investment per se, attract climate finance and international investment, fostering a smooth sectoral transition. For the carbon pricing mechanism, again, through the Presidential Regulation number 98/2021, Indonesia promote 4 mechanisms of the carbon pricings. The first is carbon trade. It consists the emission trading as well as the carbon offset. We also encourage the result-based payment as to implement the Article 5 of Paris Agreement. We also developing the carbon taxation. We may start it with carbon tax in a very near future for energy or subsector power generation subsectors. And we have the fourth mechanism is a combination. We may combine the emission trading with the tax, for example, or result-based payment with offset. So having that regulation in place, as well as continuing develop the enhanced transparency framework through our national registry system, Indonesia is developing a robust carbon pricing policy. So we do hope that this implementation of those mechanisms will very benefit Indonesia, especially in financing its NDCs target, because we know that it's not cheap. We require very robust activities as well as the financing. So we do believe by having those strategies, including the carbon pricings, we can cope with our challenging, especially the finance challenge, in ensuring that we able to achieve our commitments. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've had a fascinating panel here. If I were to take 3 conclusions from everything I've heard from our panelists, I would say Well, firstly, actually, our introductory keynote speech, we heard about Indonesia's commitment to climate ambition, not just because of the UNFCCC, but because of your own constitution. And the new NDC coming out is clearly going to embody that commitment. I think secondly, we heard about how the climate goals in Indonesia are integrated with the SDGs and with your development goals. And I was fascinated to hear how you integrate climate into your national development plan, into your sectoral plans, including in the marine area, and greening your budget so that that's truly becoming a driver of your economic development. And we look forward to seeing how the 8% growth is achieved in a way which is driving forward pro-climate, nature positive and inclusive growth. And thirdly, your interesting approach to finance, from your innovative finance instruments with your various bonds and payment for ecological services, to your proof of concept with seagrass as the basis for blue carbon, to your access to the global funds, and finally carbon pricing and the ways in which you're using emissions trading, carbon tax and other methods. And I would finish by saying it's totally appropriate that we're learning a lot from Indonesia today in this pavilion, the NDC partnership, which is a space for countries to learn from each other as we move forward to achieve the Paris Agreement through the collective action of different countries. So thank you very much for sharing your experience with us today. Thank you for those of you who have attended, and I look forward to you having a chance to interact after this session. Thank you.